I Can't Breathe. Words said by Eric Garner in 2014, George Floyd in 2020, and 70 other known people while they were being pinned by police officials. This unlawful brutality has ended with people being killed instead of arrested. What if it was someone you knew, someone you cared about, or someone you loved? Even if they actually did something wrong, would you want them killed or would you want them arrested? Your answer is more than likely that you will want them arrested, since our constitutional right is to have a trial by jury. All the people who have been affected by police brutality have families and loved ones that they care about just as much as anyone else. Watching news reports, reading articles, and seeing loved ones heartbroken over incidents involving police brutality is what got me invested in Black Lives Matter in the first place. I joined a lot of protests in the town surrounding mine and was a part of a group with 9 other kids who got a protest started in my own hometown. I've seen police brutality firsthand, and it made me feel what I'm sure is only a sliver of the anger and pain that the recipient of it and their families feel. As of recently, the Black Lives Matter movement's agenda has gotten brought into a spotlight for the entire world. Due to this, it's important to be informed on how it started and why it continues to grow over the years. To start off, the movement has evolved greatly over the course of almost a decade. In 2013, a young black kid named Trayvon Martin was killed by an older man named George Zimmerman, igniting the flames of the movement. According to biography editors, Zimmerman was a part of the Neighborhood Watch and had called the police multiple times before Trayvon's death to report black males as being suspicious. On February 26, Zimmerman called the police on Martin and proceeded to ignore their instructions to leave Martin alone. And instead, he got out of his car and followed him. It was later found out that Martin had been on the phone with his girlfriend at the time, and he told her he was being followed and had no idea who the guy was who was following him. Martin, who was unarmed, got shot in the chest and died. Zimmerman went to trial and was acquitted of the murder completely. This incident brought about the Black Lives Matter movement to try and receive justice in an unjust situation. There were 3 women who started it: Elisa, Patrice, and Opal, with a hashtag Black Lives Matter that went around all social medias. According to the official Black Lives Matter website, it was started as an affirmation of the black folks' humanity, contributions to society, and the resilience in the face of deadly oppression. The movement grew into protests that grew in size and in number over the years. In 2016, influencers such as LeBron James spoke up about the death of black people, saying enough is enough, trying to get this to stop. After a series of black citizens were murdered by police officers. In 2018, according to Cyan Turan, the Black Lives Matter hashtag had been used almost 30 million times on Twitter alone. In 2020, huge numbers of protests popped up everywhere after the death of George Floyd. There's a video showing a police officer kneeling on his neck while he was explaining that he could not breathe and he was crying out for his mom. The protests were to get the officer punished for what he did, and it never happened. The lack of repercussions to that killing and killings like George Floyd are one of the many reasons why the movement is needed. Unfortunately, there are more reasons as to why the movement is still needed today. Officers abuse their power and they receive no punishment. According to Louis Gale, 1 in 4 people who are killed by law officials in the United States are unarmed. How is that fair? 97% of the cases in 2015 did not result in an officer being charged with a crime. In a recent survey, 84% of police officers have stated that they directly witnessed a fellow officer using more force than necessary when arresting someone. Specifically, African Americans are way more in danger because of the racism displayed in the brutal incidents that have been occurring. Since January of 2015, 4,228 people have died because of the police, according to Niall McCarthy. Of those, 1,152 were black men. Even though black people only account for less than 13% of the population, they are killed at a rate more than twice as high as white people. 69% of victims who were black were suspected of nonviolent crimes and were unarmed, so there was no reason for them to die. Many in the public still do not believe that racism is a problem in any aspect of today's society. As shown by Business Insider in chart form, there is still a huge wage gap between white and black Americans, and the employment population ratio for blacks has been and continues to be lower than that of white people or Latinos. And the abuse that I've talked about in this entire time has shown that there is still racism in society in so many different ways, subtle and not subtle. It's important to be informed on why the Black Lives Matter movement exists and how it continues to grow, so we can help make the world a better place than it was. We talk about the evolution of the movement and why it is and should continue to be around. Think about the violence and terrible things happening in the world that are out of our control. This isn't. If you get the chance, stand up and speak out for this movement. It does make a difference.